Hello, my name is Robert Thomson. Welcome to the Department of Sociology. Itself is a little bit challenging. It's almost easier to say what it is not, because back when people were just starting to study criminology systematically for the first time, they were focused on things like robberies and burglaries and assaults and homicides. It's the kind of crime that's usually handled by police and usually committed by individuals with low status in the social fabric. So, as you might expect, these theories sort of overemphasize the role of poverty that plays in creating crime. So it wasn't really until the middle of the 20th century that researchers started to think about crime in a broader sense. So the term white collar crime came about as a way to understand crime that occurs in like occupational settings, and especially by folks of high status positions, what we call like white collar jobs, right? So clerks and doctors, lawyers and managers. In other words, the quote respectable people of society, the ones that are holding the levers of power. But also the people that learn to manipulate the systems, like in the cases of insurance fraud and tax fraud schemes. So today, we usually use the term to describe like occupational crimes, crimes committed by organizations and corporations, crimes committed by political entities like the government, and of course, politicians themselves. We look at white-collar crime, which are things like embezzlement and fraud and negligence and environmental dumping, as well as political crimes like voter suppression and voter fraud. So we look at these topics from sociological and criminological perspectives. We talk a lot about a lot of the stories that occur in the news. We look at theories, we look at stats, and we discuss the impact of these issues on the greater society. COVID-19 really has introduced a lot of opportunities for fraud, including like price gouging, especially at the very beginning of the lockdowns. There have been scams about selling fake vaccines and cures, unsafe working conditions where people were too close without proper protective equipment, like in meatpacking plants. There have possibly been unethical disbursements of COVID relief funding, and you had allegations of insider trading among some U.S. senators. So let's see what else. Yeah, who can forget about the Mueller investigation, right? So you had a lot of unregistered foreign dealings going on with the former Trump campaign officials from 2016. And there were some like obstruction of justice charges related to that investigation itself. And there's even concerns about the 2020 election too, right? You have concerns about voter suppression and voter fraud, especially with the new way that people are voting by mail and early voting and things like that. So, and in fact, there's an ongoing investigation about possible links between Russia and people inside the United States, like former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani. There was actually a voter suppression scheme that has been charged in Michigan by a couple of guys, Jacob Wall and Jack Berkman. They were working for the Republican Party. And there's possible issues related to fake or misleading ballot boxes in California. All of these are huge issues about whose vote gets counted. So something we see in white-collar crime is that it becomes especially prevalent during periods of federal deregulation. And we've been in just that kind of environment now for the past 4 years. So a lot of the big stories that will come out of these years, we may not know about for a while. So this topic is going to continue to be very relevant for a long time. In fact, there are questions even today about how the president evaluates his assets. Does he undervalue them to avoid taxes and overvalue them to get bank loans? This is a very serious form of fraud. So I suspect that we will hear a lot more about white-collar crimes for the years to come. Are costlier to society than street crime, both in terms of money, obviously, but also lives lost, because corporate negligence and environmental crimes are responsible for far more deaths every year in society than homicide, and far more injury than assault. So it's far costlier. That's one way it's different from other kinds of crimes. Another thing is that distinguishes white-collar crime, I think, is that it usually entails like an abuse of power in a way that street crime usually does not. These folks, they hold positions that entail some level of trust. But there's always this great temptation to exercise your duties for your own interests rather than those to whom you were entrusted. So I think that is where a lot of the white collar crime occurs. Anybody in the sociology major would be interested in this course, I think, because it deals with issues of power and inequality and stratification. And other social sciences too, like psychology, like what gets in the mind of a white collar criminal, and especially political science too, I think, because we talk about issues like voter disenfranchisement and political crime in general. But something that's kind of maybe not so intuitive is students in the College of Business, because it has a lot to do with corporations and finance crimes. So if you want to learn how things went wrong in the past, like, I think this is an excellent opportunity to study some of those case studies in great detail. History majors, if you're interested in topics relating to power in society. And I just want to say I have students from a wide range of majors that are interested in these issues, like from English to nursing to computer science. So I want to say that I welcome everyone.